All right, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hey, Mike. My name is Tom Cortese. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at Kernel Foods.
And what's interesting to me, Tom, is you are not a lifelong restaurant guy. You came over from a well-known startup called Peloton. How did that happen? How did a guy who was key to Peloton end up working for a next generation restaurant company?
Um, it's not as far. These two things aren't as far apart as they might seem. Um, I'm co-founder of Peloton. I ran operations and product and helped create Peloton from nothing into what it became. And it was a wonderful journey. I got to do that for 12 and a half years of my life. At the end of that journey, I was ready to take a whole bunch of time, um, and and met Steve Ells and found his story to be very compelling and wanted to help. I didn't think that my help was going to become full-time help, but the more I got excited about it, the more it became clear that it was going to be full-time help. But let me tell you about what seemed so similar to me.
Hmm.
When we stepped foot into the fitness industry in 2012 to create Peloton, none of us had worked in fitness before. We were long-time software technology folks. And what was clear, though, was that the fitness industry had been running the same play for 40 straight years.
Yep.
And it felt like change was afoot, and no one was there to go and push it. And we thought we had a different model, a different opportunity, a different experience to offer to people. And we figured at least a few folks were going to like our idea.
Yeah.
Little did we
The
know.
old world was like treadmills and gym memberships, been around since forever. And you saw something new.
For the most part, it was people were putting their dollars into gyms, right? Like if you were going to spend money on fitness, you were going to spend money to go to a gym. And those gyms, the business model was, if you give us money in January, we're going to hope you never come because we're going to oversell our gym in order to make our business model work, right? What's fun about the Peloton business is we're going to sell you into our system, and then we're going to hire software engineers and instructors and marketers who are going to spend every single day of their career trying to get you to work out more. So incentives were super aligned in a really nice way that didn't exist in the industry before, right? And that was a big piece of what we were bringing at Peloton. So fast forward to food, which is what we're here to talk about today. Here, I get to meet Steve Ells, who almost 40 years ago invented fast casual. And when you look around, you see all of these restaurants that behave and operate and serve food very much in the fashion that he created through Chipotle. Yeah. And so in many ways, the model has now been the same for almost 40 years. And there's an opportunity to look at it differently again. And I found it fascinating that the guy who created the model back then is also the guy who, using those decades of experience and learnings, thought, you know what, I see something differently now, and there is still yet a new way to do things, and I want to help create whatever that next wave is. And he wants Kernel to be the foundation of that.
Can you make the connection? Because when I think about Peloton compared to gym memberships, that's fascinating that the gym guys want you to sign up in January, you made your New Year's resolution, and then they don't necessarily want you to come back. They oversell it.
Yeah.
With restaurants, it seems like most restaurants are trying to delight their customers. They want you to come in and be happy with their food. So what is the connection? What's the similarity there?
Sure. So, you think about the way people want to eat these days. We are becoming more health and wellness conscious and focused. but we're still, as consumers, we still want things fast and easy, and we still want things to be convenient, and we still want a good price, right? And those are hard things to balance. I want to be thoughtful about what I put in my body. I want to be thoughtful about where the source of the ingredients, right? But then I want it to be convenient. I want it to be fast. I want it to meet
Yep.
my
Yep.
meet my price point. And as I walk around, especially here in New York City, as I walk around and I look at all the signs on all the restaurants, which is what I've been doing a lot these last few months, I feel like I see a lot of the same words, right? I see a lot of like fresh, you know, good ingredients, healthy. Like I see these words thrown around. Um, but um, to actually make real food with wholesome ingredients and great sources, um, and make that food every day in a way that we're cooking with, as Steve likes to say, you know, we're cooking like grandma, um,
Mm.
and we're using ingredients that you would find in your own refrigerator. That's actually increasingly really difficult
Mm.
in fast food or fast casual or whatever you want to call this space, right? Um, and so, you know, the bun that is used on all the Kernel sandwiches, Kernel burgers, that bun has the, you know, 4 to 6 ingredients that you would expect to be in a in a bread recipe, and that bun goes stale in a day and a half,
Mm.
right? And 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 that's a real thing that Kernel is contending with. We're going to make real food that's actually, the beets that we cut today, you know, they will by midday tomorrow, they're not good to sell anymore because
Mm.
there's nothing in those beets other than what you would expect and what you would find in your refrigerator. And so when we're talking about fresh ingredients and we're talking about chefs, we're trying to make that a genuine, real claim that's backed up, um, in a genuine way. And so, um, I think being able to, I think the consumer is always smarter than most folks think they are, and the consumer knows when they're being duped. And
Mm.
so it feels really great, in this world to be able to say like, nope, I'm going to tell you it's fresh ingredients, and I could show it to you, I could prove it to you, you could see it. Um, by the way, when I tell you that we have chef composed dishes, um, oh yeah, no, actually, it's the chef is the guy who was the sous chef at 11 Madison Park, and now he's actually
Mm.
cooking. He's actually cooking for Colonel, um, and that's
Wow.
and that's a real thing. So that's the
Yeah.
same like if you thought about going to the gym, you're being duped. I want you to sign up today. I'm telling you that there's all these benefits of joining the
Mm.
gym, but I'm actually going to work hard to make sure you don't ever show up because my business model works better when you don't show up.
One of the things that has been a focus on this particular company, with Steve, obviously Steve brings a lot of attention to anything he does, like the guy who really kind of created that fast casual category, starting a new company that is using a lot of new technology at its core. My understanding is there's a lot of use of robotics, both in the restaurant alongside people. So there's cobotics there, and also some centralized production of food. Being the chief operating officer, you're going to have to kind of wrangle that supply chain. So can you talk about and explain to people how you guys are using these new technologies?
Yep, absolutely. So let me start with the non-technology piece first. Um, right. So basic the concept here is we have a central kitchen, and so right now we're in New York City. So in New York City, we have one central kitchen, and around that central kitchen, we believe we can build somewhere between 10 and 15 restaurants. Right. So you can call the central kitchen the hub, and you can call each of the restaurants the spokes. And so we can replicate this hub and spoke model multiple times in a particular city, multiple times in a region, in multiple cities. And that's the idea. But in that hub, that's where every morning, the at 5, 6 in the morning, that's where the fresh food deliveries, the trucks back up into that hub, and and that's where you see all of the work that looks a lot like the work that happens in the back of a five-star restaurant. Right, fresh food coming in, um, chefs and cooks there to receive that food and to begin the preparation of that
Mm-hmm.
food, the chopping of the carrots, the preparing of the fresh dates, the hand picking of the herbs. All that stuff is happening there in the central kitchen, and so we're centralizing the the preparation of that food into a small, sophisticated team. That is low tech,
Mm-hmm.
um, good cooking that's happening there. And um, and then from there, that's where now all the technology starts to kick in. So now the trick is, how do I make sure that I'm producing the right amount of food in that fashion in the morning to service all of my restaurants that operate around that hub? What's the right logistics software platform that's going to be able to deliver that food just in time to the restaurant so that I can maintain this level of quality and this level of freshness, and then I can maintain this low waste environment where I'm preparing the food and then just in
Mm-hmm.
time delivering it to the restaurant to then be prepared, finally prepared for the customer at the time that they order. So that's a unique piece of software automation that we are building here at Kernel to manage that flow and that process to
Okay.
to to, to be able to get that down to something that's going to work pretty remarkably at scale. Then you get to the restaurant. So now we've moved, we call them ready to go items. So partially prepared food from that central kitchen to the
Mm-hmm.
restaurant. And in the restaurant, this is where we have the dance between the automation systems and the the staff, the the the,
Right.
the human cooks on the line. Um, in a restaurant, there is a role known as the expediter role. And that expediter role is the role that kind of kicks off the whole process. The expediter role is the orders are coming in, tickets are flying left and right. This is the one that seems to be the most dramatized on TV and in
The
movies.
bear.
It's the,
Yeah.
the bear. That's right.
Yeah.
It's all the shouting and the tickets flying.
Yeah. Yeah. So much shouting.
Uh, exactly. So in our world, we've taken that, you know, cognitively demanding um, role that has some of the highest turnover in restaurants, that um, also is the most error prone because of the level of information in and out for that one person to manage. And we've turned that into the first piece of automation in the restaurant. And so there we have orders coming in managed by software, and then those orders are then handed, theoretically handed to the to what we call captain. Captain is a multi-axis robotic arm.
Mm-hmm.
This is the type of multi-axis robotic arm that you would see in some of the best factories around the world. We use these at Peloton to manage detail welding
Yep.
and
Yep.
and other part configurations. So in the kernel world, Captain, the multi-axis robot, is actually grabbing components of your dish, the hot components of your dish, off of our racking system and placing them into the oven. Our oven, which is an impingement oven that we have um, built on top of. We've built automation on top of it of a traditional impingement oven to be able to drive food through that oven at a particular pace and speed that we've designated by software. And
Is it
we
a
have
conveyor belt system?
it's not a conveyor. It's our own. It's actually we call it a serpentine drive. So it actually moves
Okay.
through in the serpentine style through the oven, so that we
Okay.
have sort of the maximum time and a maximum number of items that we can kind of flow through the oven. So it's a software-driven motor controlled device that we've retrofitted into the oven. So we drive the food through that serpentine oven, um, and then robot is placing items onto that oven on a regular basis as orders are coming in, and then on the other side, robot's taking them out of the oven. So all that hot prep handling is being just very easily managed by this robotic arm, and then handed off to our first person on the line. We call that person the assembler. And at the same time, let's say you ordered a roast chicken sandwich from Colonel. So your piece of roast chicken is moving through the oven at the precise temperature and time that was designated for it, all being handled by automation. And at the same time, our automated toasting device, which loads buns into humidity chambers so that we can keep the buns fresh, and then removes them from the humidity chamber at the time that they're needed, and places them into a conveyor system that then lowers down a heated press and just gently toasts the bun to chef's specification. And it toasts that bun at the exact moment that we know that chicken is going to come out of the oven. So the bun is toasted at the exact moment that the chicken's coming out of the oven. And both of those things are handed by automation to that first person on the line, to the assembler. And now the assembler's job is to follow the instructions on the screen in front of them and take those two items, place them together, and then use our automated pump system to add the sauces, boom, 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 into the box and close. So you've taken out so much of the cognitive load, and you've taken out so much of the work. So you've made that job a more comfortable job, an easier to follow job, more reliable job, and so our employees are happier, and the quality and consistency of the food that we produce is better. So that's just one station, by the way. So we have multiple stations like this, and I didn't want to keep yabbing on about the various stations.
How many employees in a typical Colonel point of presence restaurant?
Yeah. So right now, to run a restaurant, we can do it with 3 people on staff. We have 3 designated roles. We call them replenisher, assembler, and bundler, and I'm happy to walk you through them. And during peak lunch hour, we add a 4th role that we call the greeter. You might think of this as a traditional like concierge host of the restaurant, really people facing.
Yep. And is the typical, I haven't been to one, I'm looking forward to going to one, I haven't been to New York to check it out, but is the typical ordering process through a kiosk, like a touchscreen? So you don't necessarily have your cashier taking orders, people doing it on a touchscreen, right?
Yeah. So actually right now, all of the ordering is through our online app or online web app. We'll likely add kiosks into the store. Now, mind you, we have been open in our first location for just 5 months, and so this has been 5 months of iterate and test, iterate and test, iterate and test. Our second location, which opens up right off of NYU's campus on East 4th Street in Lafayette, New York City, is set to open on October 21st. Wow. And then our third restaurant should open likely at the end of this year, though it might sneak over into January. Construction timelines are fun to manage.
And how much have the lessons learned from that first one where you're just doing all this testing and iterating and learning? How much things have changed since that first time you've opened versus the second one that you're opening?
A lot. I mean, when first of all, the menu, we've iterated a lot on the menu. The system itself is capable of a ton of variety, and so and so we started with a very small menu, and we've added things and deleted things as we begin to understand what works for our consumers. So the menu's evolved itself quite a bit, and then on the automation system, we've made a lot of progress on on various components. I think that oven itself has gone through three major iterations of how that particular drive mechanism should work, um, and then optimizations for how it can work even better. And we have this amazing practice, where at the end of every day, the staff who are running the restaurant, uh, they they do what we call a huddle, and
Hmm.
out of that huddle, they discuss all the things that went well, all the things that didn't go well, and all the things that uh, would make their jobs better or easier, and all the things they think would have made the customer's um, experience better, because those are the folks who are there on the ground. And the staff just does such a remarkable job at this, because at the end of every day, I get in my Slack my favorite um, downloaded information, which is the huddle notes, and the huddle notes detail out all of these findings. And as a company, we are super responsive to those notes. So the folks right there in the restaurant who are talking to customers, who are
Yeah.
working with the systems, are giving us direct feedback, and then the next day we get to wake up, come to work, and start working on that feedback.
Any surprises, or like, can you give an example of a lesson from those huddles, or a comment from those huddles that led to a change?
Yeah, so we one that we're sort of contending with right now. Um, One of the interesting parts of the experience in our restaurant are our locking cubbies. And so these were a fun throwback to the old automats.
Automats. Yep.
And you know, in our heads, this was like, you know, sort of fun and cute and throwback in a unique way, and also kind of helping solve a problem that we had seen, where um, I don't think people are actually willfully stealing my salad when I go to another restaurant. I think it's just people just grab bags, and it's the wrong bag, because you go to these places now, and you do pickup, and there's just like this
Yeah. Yeah.
smattering of
It's a new,
bags.
it's a new way to get your food. It's an old way, but it's a new
Yeah.
way for most people.
So we thought this would be clever. We would, you know, we're going to assign you a number when you make an order. We're going to assign you a number, and then when you come into our restaurant, um, you see these cubbies. They each have a number. You open up your Kernel app, and it tells you you're in cubby number 12. You click the unlock button on your app. The cubby lights up. You open the door. You take your bag out. It works great, by the way. The problem is that people come in and they see staff, behind the cubbies who are working, and they find it off-putting that no one's no one's willing to talk to them, and that
Hmm.
the way in which they interact and get their food is they have to sort of do it in this um, do it in this way where they
Automated
don't have
manner,
human
essentially.
interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so some people actually just get totally pissed off, and I've seen people get pissed off. Like, are you serious? I
Hmm.
have to do this. You can't just hand it to me.
Interesting.
And we're like,
Yeah.
oh, no, no, we're
Yeah.
happy to hand it to you, but we thought this would be fun. And so it's more of a sort of a first time user experience problem that we see with people. So anyway, this is something that we weren't expecting. We weren't expecting people to get pissed off about our covers. We thought they would find them adorable. Lots of people do, some people don't. So what we've done is we've changed the process so that now you can opt in to the cubbies, right? Simple little user experience change. But when you place an order now, you can say, I would like to use the secure cubby system, versus before, all the orders went into the cubbies. Does that make sense?
What is the percentage? Can you give a rough number of like how many people are opting in versus I want the old school way of someone handing it to me?
I'd say, it's probably like 50-50 now for the new users who are deciding who are deciding to opt in.
Hmm.
That said, I think a lot of the problem is solved just by allowing people to opt in. That
Yeah.
just already starts the education process. I've chosen to do this. So now I've read about it and I understand what I'm doing. And now when I walk in, I'm happier because I made the choice and I understood the choice while I was making it. And so I'm happier with the
Yeah.
experience. And in
One of the
hospitality,
thing.
being happy with the experience is a pretty
Yeah.
important thing.
Yeah. And so you're innovating on a couple fronts. One of the things that's radically changing is the customer experience. You're obviously changing operations to try and drive towards fresh experiences, et cetera. You're probably thinking a lot about both of those. You have to, but on the customer experience front, you have to kind of train them, you have to educate them, and that takes a lot of time and investment.
That's right. And um, there's only so much training
Mm,
that customers want to go through. Um,
right.
that said, an intuitive user experience, even if it's a new user experience, not to use the word experience too many times, but an intuitive user experience, in my experience, is something that people are quick to adapt to. And so that's where just making sure you have the right components that signal to the consumer what to expect, why to expect it, is really important. And all of a sudden, that education doesn't feel like education anymore. It just feels like something fun that you discovered.
So you tell me you have three, four people in a restaurant. Are these the typical fast food folks who have worked in previous restaurants? Have they worked at Chipotle style fast casual? What are you looking for? Because it's a little bit different style of restaurant.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's a mix. So definitely, um, um, folks who have worked in restaurants, in the cook line and the make line like this, do very well here. There's a quick adjustment to understanding how to work with our automation systems versus working with traditional restaurant equipment. But again, the idea here is that that operating system is we're designing it to be intuitive for that user, and that user is the operator. But we've also found success, especially with our um, our greeter role, which is our main front of house role, uh, um, which we've found a lot of success with folks who have an acting background or have you know potentially been a fitness instructor or anything where they've had a more a role being more outgoing and engaging people, because again, this is big component of running a restaurant is great hospitality and having clever, unique folks who are wonderful at engaging with engaging with customers on the ground, um, have had a great time adjusting to the role at Colonel.
Long term, if you think about building this out, because I imagine you have a pretty big vision moving beyond New York City, moving into other metros. What does this look like? Do you guys think that over time the kind of the balance of human and robotics may change in the restaurant? Do you still kind of see the same balance between centralized and distributed production, kind of making of the food? How do you see this evolving over the next 5 years?
Yeah. So I think there are a lot of different directions that it can go. At the core, though, is um, how do we make fresh food fast, and how do we make sure that we're keeping um, you know um, high end, high quality chefs at the center of the food at the food that we're creating. And so, as we think about how to evolve, we want to make sure that we are um, hitting on those on those core points. So right now, the central kitchen gives us maximum ability to bring fresh food in, to be able to transform that fresh food with a small but high quality staff. And the current automation systems are giving us the ability to um, move the product at the right pace. Now, it might be that um, over time there might be unique opportunities for us to add some automation to that central kitchen process. We don't know. We don't know yet. Um, um, it might be that we find more opportunity on the restaurant side to continue to automate more of what's happening on the make line and continue to push more of the people work to the front of the house so that people interact mostly with people. um, which again in hospitality is just generally you know a great thing. And then as we expand their reach to multiple cities, I think the way in which we manage that logistics system between the hub and the spokes is going to evolve a lot, and I think that's going to evolve on multiple fronts. One, I think sort of the technology around distribution systems is already just something that is evolving quickly in the world, and so we want to be in a position to be able to take advantage of whatever those advancements are. Right? Already, we're using a combination of e-bikes and electric vehicles. Um, when those vehicles become more autonomous, we want to be able to take advantage of that. How close the hub needs to be to the spokes might be something that we can change. Can we pull that hub further away from the spokes and still be able to move food at the appropriate rate? Those are going to be all things that'll get worked out as we continue to build and scale.
Long term, you worked at Peloton as a founder, and now you came over here. What are you most excited about in terms of the reimagining of the restaurant? Where do you think the most exciting stuff will happen?
I'm most excited about being able to about this idea that we can bring much better quality, um, um, truly fresh food to people in the format of fast food. To me, that sounds fascinating as a way in which to think about um, better feeding the world, and I'm excited to be able to help um, design and scale the processes and the systems that that make that work, and that is primarily why I'm here, and where I will spend uh, uh, my time, uh, and what I'll spend my time thinking about.
All right, Tom Cortese, thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.